The summer wind veers round by the nor'west, and all jockey kens it's the wind that blows best, and he smiles to himself, and by the shore sits. There'll be salmon the morning the night. So he yokes up his shalt, and he talks to the beach, across to the bothies to pick up the catch, a fine shot of salmon to mark the next train, as his father afore him had gerted lang syne.
Along with the Doric language, there was the music as well, wasn't there? There was the Buffy.
Well, Buffy Bar was that. Oh, I have lots of things, yes. Again, the local communities, like small places like Kinedward and Achterles and Fife, you know, they had a church, and they may have had a social, or had the evenings again for, well, they amused themselves, they are self-amused. And of course the Doric was hard spoken here all the time. But again, of course, when people coming in here and spoken out, and it's all changed. Like Gamery, Kirby, away doing that, they were a wee bit slower, but the people being in that area, and out in the country sometimes, up in the remote bits of country, up the hills of Fishery, up in Blackland, all these countries, up there, the smaller, the folk, and they travel that far, out that boot, and they were still clinging on to certain words in the Doric. That's a kind of, it's virtually gone now. There's some of the folks, it's just hard to Doric to spoke. You get the words out, far again, fit you and fit you think about it, by going to me, think it was automatic, but that's gone now. We've got the dances. We got a Scottish dance put there, and it's a reel or something like that. Now it's got the dancing. Before the ballroom dance would come in, it's square, quadrilles and all that type of stuff. And then the ballroom dance would come in. But we got an some real dancing quite stars or some of that kind in the latter part. It died out of my day. Communities played an awful lot of part within themselves. But if you went direct Doric, it's like, what do you do here? That here, there's more Buchan spoken, and we're a wee bit more coastal kind of here.
Aye.
But, folk would come up with the truth when they came the word they were saying. Oh, no, it was half abroad. Oh, it's completely changed now. The Buchan Doric, it's all gone more or less. They'll get a wee bit in the small towns, and as I said, but the influx and the education, the people going abroad and the movements killed it off more or less.
Would you class like the northeast of Scotland, Aberdeenshire, or as your home now?
Yes.
Based on the fact that...
Yes, I've been here for nearly 20 years.
20 years, yeah, so Aberdeenshire's your home, aye.
Yeah.
And do you like the feel of the place, the people?
Oh, yes, the people are friendly. And it's so peaceful.
If you were to think of Aberdeenshire as a colour,
Yes.
what colour would you say Aberdeenshire was?
Different blue, I think.
say that was because it's near the sea? Or?
I think it is, and also the mountains and the sky. And people are so friendly up here compared to where I come from. To drive a few miles and the weather's changing. It can be raining in Tariff and dry here. Although I do think that the climate's changing. We used to have worse winters. We don't get the really bad winters like we used to. We don't get the snow, do we?
Makes you feel happy to live in Aberdeenshire, yeah?
Yes.
For all the reasons that you've said about before.
Yeah. Marvellous scenery.
It's country, it's not city life, you see, it's sort of country life, freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom. Knowledge of people, you get to know a lot of people with the area. I can lot of folk in a younger day, and you the people in Tariff and in Banff and Macduff, of course, and Persoy Kent. The farmers are good. You had a country life, you still had a good Aberdeen if you were in the city. I mean, Aberdeen could produce well. My father's time was writing a lot into the theatre into Aberdeen. So, and Helen, my wife and my mother and that, we took like in Aberdeen shops. You still got, and you could do it in a day. You weren't tired to stay in the city life, you had that rural life. And the benefits are these things.
If you were to think of Aberdeenshire as a colour, what colour would it be?
Blue, something like a kind of blue, a sort of fair blue.
You used to associate Aberdeen.
It's like coming back to freedom. When the workers are happy and employers are happy and there's a contentment with the employment and the people that live there, they're a friendly, big buchan in particular, close-knit kind of community. As I say, there's no extreme thing, no unions or big factories or nothing. There's just everybody to muck around with and help each other. I mean, everything, social life was good, the church and all these all. Other towns had their churches well attended and all that, and things of that kind. It was a good cross-section of people. A lot of people come up here and soon settle down and get into the ways. There's no remoteness or anything with people, just a friendly nature. The country itself would make you that. It's good land, good farming land, good fresh air, everything sort of. Just well, that's how I see it. Well, past history, it just passed a history moving on. But I mean, again, the whole attitude to life changed up here with strangers coming here and intermixing and marriage and all the services, men going to war, coming back again. It's completely opened the place up from that point of view. People with a buchan, they might have been in buchan all their life. I suppose it's folk that never have got to Aberdeenshire. That's first you right for the week up the north. Around the Joch, down to Lossenwood, Borgeen, these places, White Hills, Macduff, trace of all got their most of living for codes and for roasted dishes and fish. We're able to sustain all these towns. They were shooting marketed fish all the time, and it was the same day. Macduff would have employed, I'd have said, associated with fishing, I've said between 200 and 300 folk, between the fishermen and the boat building, the sailors, the boats, the engineers, the landing and fish, the harbour, the market and the fish, and there's 4 or 5 fish houses where they cleaned and got the fish, that put them up the railway and away, and the same following morning. So people got a lot of bonny fish, but they give all these people work. The big boats, of course, to finish the sea now.
I like lemon sole. Well, I get my lemon sole for the White House. Fish market in Macduff that I came to. So that's what I did, Macduff. I came up with fish market that I was now, but that's Macduff that I came. I like the fish that we get here. Kind of fish that we get here, it's fish get to go in here. That we came there, I think it's a fish. Well, if I can the photographs, I can tell speaking about it, but I didn't can the place, I didn't tell you about it. This is the matter I was born in. I'm a Leo. I was born in Bond. I had the annex, but the annex that I was born in is doing now. See how you're in bits and pieces where you belong. I can speak Doric, I know, but I can't. I've heard them speaking Doric. Things that you must have told the king.
I think
It's Broad Scotch.
Broad Scotch or Doric.
I didn't ken all the places really. I just ken them like Bump and Macduff. I could take you to streets that I went to Tucky Town. I can tell you that, oh, this is so and so street, and this is so and so and that.
Right, so you like eating fish?
I like fish. I like lemon sole.
Well, it was just farmer work to do, the usual. It came the crops to be planted, and of course, if it like if the shell neeps nothing, there's speak about showing the neeps. There was cattle, you see. There was cattle to raise, and of course, my mother milked a cow every day, and of course, she made her butter and her cheese. You can
right.
Oh, why? She just a country life. Normally, you just put in, I suppose, if it was a fine with a creamy milk for the cattle, and as you think it did, of course, it would have coagulated and kind of, what did you say, become more solid.
And how did they get it into the shape of like butter?
Oh well, what you do, you see, used to clappers we used to call them. They were just sort of things that my mother would shape our butter wee, you see. And they were like 12 puddles almost. And she would just take our whatever it was, and she would just use them and she would shape them so that they were kind of shaped, you can, and you just served them that way. And should I made our bonnets, put on the girdle,
Bonnets,
and put on the poured on the thingy and just made the bonnets, and just turn them over, it kind of as the heat can progress kind of style. So just that. There's a swai. They used to have swai now. What was that for?
So something to do with cooking, pots.
I think I was the pot of being a fire. I think. If you were maybe cooking, put a pot of broth on the care. I never know. But they were cooking a cake with, my mother used to say, come on, give us a hand with the kettle. You can, if they were shifting kettle, they would say, give us a cake. So we used to help them out. If you can put the kettle for the winter, the kettle to go with the wood and a special part of it. But,
did you help with the cooking and all?
Well, I wasn't a great cook because my mother, she did that. I just helped.
That was her job, that's what she liked doing.
She was just a quiet soul. She wouldn't say an ill word about anybody. She would say use it as well. Because I grew up in a fair. It was just country life. And of course, most of the time is reasonable with that. I mean, if it's a horrible day, by outside long, you get what I mean. But I mean, of course, because I had a few brothers, of course, I was in a farm, I was ploughing to be done, I was crops to be sown, we would say sharp, but things like that, and so I was working a farm.
Stuff like that, yeah.
I think that's quite traditional in most places in the North East. And, to be quite honest, I love to hear Ken Grusalas singing. Things like that. I just love that because it always belongs to this area.